everyone, and welcome back to In the Minds of Madness. Now, in the past, we've talked about what is Lovecraftian horror. We've talked about Lovecraftian horror becoming a video game genre, a gameplay genre. And we have covered Lovecraftian comics. Now, today, we're going to be covering Lovecraftian video games. But to be more specific, a single Lovecraftian video game, and that is The Secret World. Now, if you've never heard of The Secret World, it is an MMORPG produced by Funcom Games, and it is advertised as more of a dark, supernatural style game than others. Now, what makes The Secret World so different? What makes it so special? Special enough for its own episode? There's many different things about it, and to be honest, I love this game. I've put 200 plus hours into this game. So, what makes it so good? What makes it Lovecraftian? First off, we'll be talking about the story. Now, the story of The Secret World is a little odd in the beginning. You play as just an average person that, for some reason, during the night, some glowing bee flies into your mouth, and apparently this bee gives you superpowers. It's weird, I'll give it that, but stay with me on this one. Now, after about a week or two, powers start manifesting, and you get recruited by one of the three factions in the game. There's the Illuminati, the Templar, and the Dragon. Each one is based off of modern lore and a lot of the conspiracy theory type things going on, and the legends. So like the Templar are the Knights Templar, the Illuminati, and all that. All of that is true in this game. And you get recruited by them, whichever faction that you chose in character creation. And in the process of going on, you start seeing hints that something dark is going on. And that's the reason why you're being recruited. Like the tutorial, where it teaches you, the game teaches you how to play, you're going through in the body of someone else. You're seeing someone else's memories, and they're dealing with something called the filth, which is like this black goo that's sentient, that infects people, and it spreads, and it's like a nasty, evil, sentient disease. It all takes place in a subway system in Tokyo. And the tutorial ends with this character going in the depths of this subway system and seeing planets and galaxies and other things that shouldn't be down there. And then that person blacks out and you wake up. And as you're going on through the story, you're starting to see hints of what this filth is, and the fact that it's like the end times are occurring. And you're trying to fight against it, just trying to slow it down as much as you can. And that's kind of the overlying story arc, is finding out what the filth is, what it's doing, and how some of the other groups that are not playable factions tie into all these events. Now, once the tutorial's over, you start jumping into the actual game and traveling around, and the stories of what's going on, these interconnecting stories of these different areas that you're going to, it's all got that sense of hopelessness. The areas that you're going to, the stuff's done, the stuff's happened, and people are suffering or just dead, and you can't do too much about it besides try to figure out what happened. And these range from like a New England town that's been overrun with a mysterious fog that's brought forth creatures from the deep of the oceans, and zombies, the black filth that pops up everywhere, and then hints of the other layers of reality and things outside forces. So the story as a whole has that Lovecraftian horror element to it. It has that sense of, I can't stop this, but I can do the best I can to kind of slow it down. From the get-go, you know these situations, you can't stop it, because it's either too powerful or it's too late. Now, the game gives you the story in two ways. First one is through lore. Now, lore, you find different lore items throughout the maps as you're looking around, and each lore item gives you a little bit of the background behind something. But you don't get the full story until you collect all the lore pieces of that subject. Like, there's lore on each of the three main factions, there's lore on incidences in each section that you're in, each map you're on, and each one kind of explains what's going on and gives you a little bit of background. but it doesn't tell you what's exactly going on right now. The other way it gives you the story is through quests, which most MMOs do. Now, me personally, I play a lot of MMOs. They're one of my favorite gameplay genres out there. But there's not very many that I actually get into, and there's very, very few that I actually get into the lore, the story of what's going on. Most of the time, it's you go in, you grab a bunch of quests, you just burn through them really quick, don't even read what's going on, and just go and do them. The way the Secret World does its quests is somewhat ingenious, and I love the way that they do it, and a lot of people agree that it's a very smart way to do the quest when you're trying to portray story. They limit the amount of quests you can have to make sure you don't get overloaded and just burn through them. Every quest you take from an NPC has a cutscene of that NPC talking to you and explaining what the situation is. So you're sitting there and you're watching a small cinematic every time you take a quest. So that kind of gives you the lore. You don't have to read anything. You sit there and you watch. And that, and limiting how many quests you can take, make sure you get the lore. You know what's going on. And it gets you deeper and deeper into the story. And now, going off of the subject of quests, there is a special type of quest that appears in this game. They are investigation quests. Now, these quests, they're somewhat ingenious in the way that they're implemented. When you take the quest, it tells you the first step of the quest. And then after that, you have to figure out everything out on your own. From one step to another, you will get hints and clues throughout the areas, but you have to put the pieces together. Like an example is one I went through that's in the very first area of Kingsmouth, which we'll get into the setting in a moment. But Kingsmouth, the very first starting town, there is an investigation quest where you have to go around looking for different things, following different hints, which eventually you get into an old Illuminati like catacomb system. 1, you have to translate Latin. 2, you have to find certain verses in the Bible and find certain word in that verse from a hint, a clue that the game gives you. And then you get a hint that gives you the name of a composer. And you have to find that composer's most famous song, find the sheet music for that song, find a certain small piece of that song, and read the music on that and input it in the game itself, in a puzzle to pass on. These investigation quests are very in-depth, and it is the main reason why the game has a built-in browser where you can do searches while you're in the game, which is awesome. And it kind of ties into that whole mystery and figuring things out on your own, and also gives you a little bit. These quests tend to give you a little bit of more background about what's going on. The fact that they did that, I think, is amazing just as a gameplay aspect, as a gamer. So next is the world setting itself. It takes place in modern day world, and the game spans the entire globe. Once you go through the very first area, you go to Kingsmouth, which is a fictitious New England town that is overrun by zombies and Drog, which are the Norse undead. The story is the Drog came with the fog that overran the town, and they're turning people into monsters. And everything about this town is a nod to Lovecraft, straight out. For example, the roads in the town of Kingsmouth, some of the most notable names are Arkham Avenue, Lovecraft Name, Angel Street, Angell, and Dunwich Road. That and the map itself, when you bring up the map, it is a hand-drawn map. It's not just like some computer graphics, it's an actual illustrated map. And the illustrated map fits, in many ways, the old illustrations of Arkham in some of the Lovecraft collections. Now, after this town, the story kind of spreads out. You end up in a rundown amusement park that is haunted by the boogeyman. You end up in Miskatonic University, which is straight out pulled from Lovecraft, and then you end up in the mountains. That is all of the New England aspect. And then you move on to around the globe to like Egypt, Transylvania, and it finally ends up in Tokyo, which is where everything started in the game. So then there's the creature design. Now, I will admit, I do have many hours into this game, but I have not personally gotten past the first main area of the New England area. So I have not seen much of the later enemies in the game, but from the beginning, everything that you go up against, you can see has been inspired by Lovecraft. I mean, yes, you start out killing zombies, but those zombies are created by an evil fog that has Drog inside, which these Drog, they've risen from the deep, and they get like sea creatures and coral and things encrusted on them, and they look waterlogged and horrendous. And then as you move on, you run into Wendigo, which look monstrous and somewhat Lovecraftian, and then you deal with sentient bugs. Honestly, I cannot give this game enough love. This game is amazing. I enjoy every moment of it, not just because of gameplay. While the gameplay is somewhat standard for MMOs, the way they do everything, the way they implement the mechanics is awesome, and the story is amazing. If you love Lovecraft to any degree, you will love The Secret World. There'll be a link in the description below for the Steam page for The Secret World, and also the Secret World's homepage, so you can check it out yourself, see how it is, and see if you might be interested in picking up, because it's an awesome game. I love it. And honestly, after recording this, I'm probably going to be playing it for a little while. So that brings us to the end of another episode. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.